Hey there guys, what's going on? Gale right here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi Memoria Freeze video, and today we're here to start the big series on this channel that you guys have been waiting for. I am going to be dropping tier lists over the next coming weeks, of course, for every single character in this game that's a 4-star, outside of certain types, which I'll come on to in just a second. And of course, I hope you guys go on to enjoy these videos that I'll be dropping in the next coming weeks. Of course, it'll be truly appreciated. You know, you guys dropping those likes, those comments, and stuff like that. It would be truly appreciated. So please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course comment down below what element do you guys want to see next, because the way I'm going to be doing these tier lists, to just give you guys an idea. So right now, today's video, you guys have already seen it by the title, but today's video is entirely dedicated to fire physical units. So we're going to be going over the fire physical units. We're going to see each and every single one of them. We're going to go over them. We're going to talk about them, and we'll give them a rank. We'll give them a rank between S to D, basically. D is unusable, you're probably never going to use it. C and B is like maybe, but probably not. A is very much likely to use it, and of course S is probably meta, you're using it every single day of the week basically, right? So we're gonna be doing something like that for all units basically. Now, of course, I would like to address the fact that defensive and healing units have not gotten units in nearly 4 years. Basically, what they've done is a lot of the defensive units and healing units, they've just shifted to the other 3 categories: physical, magical, or balanced. So you're not really seeing any of those units be categorized in the defensive type or healing type. So we're going to probably just ignore them entirely. But over the coming weeks, we're going to tackle all elements. We're going to tackle physical and magical separately. And then in the final day, we will be looking at all the balanced units. So like I said, hopefully you guys go on to enjoy this video. I would truly appreciate if you guys leave a comment down below as to what element you guys want to see next. Of course, like I said, there's 6 other elements after fire. I just wanted to kickstart us with fire because fire is cool and all. But we have water, earth, wind, thunder, light, and dark. So let me know in the comments which ones you guys would like to see next. Now, like I said, we're starting off with fire physical, and fire physical has had some crazy units in the past. You know, you've had the 3rd anniversary units, you had the 2nd anniversary units, you have lid, you have you know, single target units like Bet, and you know, the new Argo Rabbit Bell as well. So there are some decent options in this category, but of course in the last year or so, I will say this, that fire hasn't gotten the same amount of love as it used to at one point, and once we reach fire magic as well, you're gonna see a lot more units there that also were of high quality, high caliber, probably meta defining units as well. So like I said, fire used to be fantastic, but not so much nowadays, and we'll go over each unit. We'll start off with the OG Argonaut Bell. Now this unit was one of its kind. What I'm gonna do is as well, you guys will see the stats and everything as well, and you guys will also see the differences in stats between older units and newer units. So Argonaut Bell is one of those units that came out like year 1 basically, even year 0 I should say. This was before the 1st year anniversary. So this guy is old. He did get a buff recently, funnily enough, right? If you were obviously being able to fully hero ascend him and everything. Basically what they did was like effectively for new players, they would give this guy out for free. He got a little bit of an update. He didn't have any of this. Like, he never did the P-Res, M-Res, and Fire Res down at one point. He was way worse than this. But as a new player, you can use this guy extremely well in game modes like, for example, the lower ranks of war games, clearing out events and stuff like that, because they give you guys a maxed out, you know, 4-star. The issue is that if you look at his modifiers and stuff, it's not of any good quality, to be quite honest. He does do some decent stuff like removing SR and match buffs, ridiculously useful in game modes such as Record Buster, right? I've said this, if you haven't checked my Record Buster guide for Riveria from last week, check it out. Riveria, you know, buffs herself up, buffs her magic up, and a unit like this would be great for starting players as a result of that. And of course, he's able to reduce the resistance of the foes, he's able to increase his own SR and magic. In that regards, he's pretty decent. Obviously, it's a little bit weird because he uses physical attacks, so in that regards, it's a little bit odd. But you know, it's there. He's got stuff going for him nonetheless. But again, he's dated, he's old, his modifiers are low, his stats are low. 1600 doesn't cut it in this day and age. I mean, if I were to look at, say for example, I look at even a somewhat modern day unit, a 3rd anniversary unit. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, look at this. Even without Hero Ascending, Elise from the 3rd anniversary is already higher than the old Argonaut. It goes to show the change in times we've had since then. So I'd probably give this Bell Crenel probably a high D, low C. I still believe he's usable just because they give you a free maxed out copy of him at the start of the game. But if you're looking long term, he's probably a straight up D. He's not usable in this day and age. He's old, he's worn out. He needs to be put in the old care home, basically, at this point. In all honesty, he needs to be put in the retirement house. It's unfortunate, but he's a decent option for starting players, not so much from, you know, veteran players or even mid-game players, I would say. So unfortunately, this guy gets a solid D from me. Now, let's move on to the 1st anniversary Bell. Now, this guy, I remember when he first released, he was actually insane. He was so good. And of course, you can see the stat jump already. That's a 2000 point difference between the strengths of the Argonaut Bell and this Honor Succession Bell. Now, one thing I'm going to also do is move my camera all the way to the bottom left so you guys can actually see the stats and everything clearly and the names of the characters as well. And I remember this guy because he was kind of interesting, to say the least, because I remember he had a interesting thing as well where his special arts, because of course, if you guys can see his combat skills, funnily enough, none of them have elements. Like, his only elemental move is his special arts, and that's Argonaut Incarnation. But the funny thing is, if you guys can see it on the top of your screens, Ultra Fire Magic Attack, which was indexed to strength. So his main attack, his special arts, was a magic attack, but it scaled off his strength, which was very interesting. It was quite different. I still wish they would do this in this day and age, but I know and I understand because of how stats work and everything, it's a little bit trickier to do it in this day and age, but it would be still very cool, I would say. I would love it just because of the fact it would be something unique. Now, again, he's actually a little bit worse than the old Bell we just saw a second ago, in all honesty, purely because he doesn't have much going for him. Again, he is one of those units that never got a buff, and it's a shame because we've seen the 2nd anniversary units get a buff just recently, right? We'll probably see the 3rd anniversary units get a buff in January, and it's just weird to see the 1st anniversary units get nothing to this day and age, and I feel like that's a missed opportunity from them. And of course, I wish they would have gone back and actually given these guys buffs, in all honesty. And I still wish they would, because bringing them to a modern day, you know, iteration of their characters would be insane. But again, these modifiers, the boost that he's giving himself, the 75% strength, come on now. In this day and age, I mean, 75% strength isn't the worst thing to self as well, right? But you see a lot of units giving strength and fire attack damage 60%. And that's a whole, like, if you add them together, that's 120% boost to themselves, right? And then you see them also reducing the opponent's resistance by like 20%, 30%, and stuff like that. Even the old Argonaut Bell we saw, he's reducing it by minus 20%. So, and he's reducing fire and physical resistance. Again, minus 40% at that point if you're, you know, adding the two up. He only does minus 10%. And back then, I'd absolutely agree. Back then, this would have been insane. But in this day and age, not so much. A straight D. I can't even recommend him to new players as well. Like, usually I would say with that Argonaut Bell, it's a potential C, just because of the fact that they give you a maxed out copy of him, and he's a little bit more modern than he was way back when. But even then, I would probably still put them both in D. So this guy goes straight into D though. Now, I'm sorry, but he used to be the GOAT. Not anymore, man. I remember using him a lot in war games, but not anymore. Now let's go over to this April Fool's Bell. Now this is of course a little bit of an April Fool's. He's got the stats of a 3-star, time limited, and I mean, you guys can see it. He's also got the index to strength as well. STR and fire attack damage plus 40%, technically more than the other Bell, to be fair. But again, not much happening here. All of his kit is basically indexed to strength. You're not really using him. It's a D. Again, I mean, I can't really recommend him to a lot of people. He's an April Fool's unit. not really somebody you'd go for necessarily. All right, let's look at Decisive Will Bell. It's kind of weird that we don't actually have that many fire bells. You know, I used to think at one point we had a lot more fire bells, but looking at this, we only have like 6 in total, 5 in total, sorry, I should say 5 in total, which is really odd, honestly. I think we do have some magic versions. Let me just check, actually. I'm getting sidetracked from the tier list side of things, in all honesty, but okay, yeah, we do have a lot more fire magic versions, which we'll get on to in the next video, but let's go to Decisive Will Bell. Now, this is again another example of where, you know, the stats of a character have gone up drastically. From 1800, we've gone to 2000. Something to bear in mind. But this guy, you know what? He's not bad, but again, he's got that same issue as the as some of the more recent units that have been coming out in the 4th anniversary or in and around the 4th anniversary, the 3rd anniversary, where they started adding a lot more features to these units, in the sense of, oh, they will reduce the opponent's resistance, they will remove STR and magic buffs or something in their additional actions, but their modifiers were still low. I mean, this was only one additional action and you only got minus 35% fire rest for 1 turn. So in that regards, there were still some issues with these units, right? And then you look at what he does in the 2nd skill and stuff like that. There's not much going on with this dude, actually, if you look at it, right? And it's really, it's a real shame, because if I recall correctly, I don't remember, this is the bell from the anime gacha from season 3, if I'm not mistaken. So this guy's about a 2-year-old unit. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's the anime gacha bell, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me in the comments if I am wrong, but I think he was the, I mean, it says Dear Astraeus. I know this is the okay, that confirms it. This is the anime gacha bell from season 3, the finale unit. And I remember actually being somewhat disappointed by him, because he didn't seem that crazy, and I think it was because they were giving out a free copy of him or something like that. And they tend to do this where, well, not always, because the anniversary sometimes, you know, for example, the light fin we got for free, I mean, people still use them, right? He's insane for Record Buster and stuff, right, for the light physical team. But when you're looking at a unit like this and you just see what he's doing and it's not enough, it's just like, it ain't great. It ain't great. I would probably put this unit in, I don't want to be too harsh and put him in C, but I mean, he's not doing much, to be honest. I wouldn't use him in war games. Definitely not in war games. I wouldn't use him in war games. I wouldn't use him in Wreck-It Buster. I wouldn't use him in any sort of like mainstay content either, like Familiar Rush or, you know, challenge runs or anything of that sort. Yeah, none of this. So I mean, his Ox Killer definitely helps, right? In Familiar Rush, that can be one good thing about him, but I'd probably put him at C. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but C, I feel, is a strong point, because you're just not going to use him. And I feel like the way they've built him isn't that great, to be honest. So I'd probably say C, honestly, for him. Unfortunate, but it is how it is. All right, let's look at this new Argo Rabbit Bell. Now, I think this guy is going to be a solid A. Again, you're seeing the benefits of being a modern day unit. You've got much higher stats compared to his fellow units that we've just seen, the fellow physical units we've seen. But this guy, I mean, he does a lot of things, let's be real. Like, when he came out, of course, we knew that he was meant to be used in the Juggernaut final trial, right? And he's insane in there, for sure, right? But outside of that, right, we haven't had the opportunity to use him in any mainstay content. Again, like I say, when it comes to Wreck-It Buster, we've not had a, you know, stage where fire weaknesses were prioritized in Familiar Rush either. So we've never had an opportunity to use this guy in those places. But in the final trial, I've seen him being used, and I can assure you, this guy is pretty darn decent. I mean, he does a lot of good things here. He's able to reduce the opponent's physical resistance. He's giving himself strength and fire attack damage plus 70%, so 140 in total technically. And then his 4 additional actions are ridiculously good, because he's giving himself mid-fire physical attack, and then you're getting a 10% MP heal. Again, refer back to the Decisive Will Bell we saw just a second ago, right? That guy only did 1 additional action, and that was it, and minus 35% fire res, which isn't a bad thing necessarily. I mean, it's a 5% difference in the resistance downs, but then you see what this bell is doing in comparison to that bell. It's just crazy, right? So in my opinion, this guy's pretty darn decent. And then of course he's giving himself that dexterity and counter raid buff, and his allies as well, which is insanely useful for the modes he's going to be used in, which is Wreck-It Buster and Familiar Rush and stuff, right? And then on top of that, he's giving himself allies for fast 30% HP heal, null physical attack times 1, and status buff plus 3. So, in all honesty, this one, I know a lot of people felt like it was primarily used for Juggernaut, but you can still use this to good effect because he's obviously extending your buffs and stuff, and especially in game modes against, let's say, maybe Revis, for example, right? Getting that free nullification is so nice to have because you're taking one less hit from the enemy, right? And Revis will never remove your buffs, so you can just keep extending it with this bell as a result of that, right? So in that regards, I would say this bell is probably a solid A, maybe S in scenarios where he's going up against units like, for example, Revis or Familiar Rush, where he's going to be dominant against it, especially because he might have the right killer ability, right? And of course Record Busters, where he's obviously type effective, right? We've seen it, right? For example, the Record Buster we just had last week was Thunder Res down, right? So situations like that, he'll be an S rank. But outside of that, probably an A rank unit, I would say, most likely. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but I would say that's the case. Now we have this Eyes, Dancing Princess Eyes. Ooh, what a unit right here. Now this unit is a little bit of an oldie but goldie. I really like her. I used to use her a lot in my Fire Record Buster team. Not anymore, of course, since I switched to the Light team, but she's actually pretty decent. I would probably put her in B. She's able to reduce the opponent's fire res, P res. She's giving allies P res and M res. She's also giving allies strength and fire attack damage. The biggest issue with her, and obviously she has SA Gate Charge on her special odds, which is great, right? But the only issue she realistically has, in my personal opinion, is that the numbers are low. The numbers are really, really low. Not specifically for the fire res and P res, as well as the P res and M res plus. It's mainly this last one, Fencer Cadenza. That's probably a little bit too low. I would probably say if it was 50% strength and fire attack damage or 60%, way better, 100% way better. And maybe if it also had additional actions, she would easily be an A unit, again similar to that bell, where could be an S unit depending on the situation, but an A unit straight up. But I would probably say she's a B unit. Her damage is outdated, her skills are a little bit outdated, but the basis is there. This Eyes actually could be insane if they even just give her additional actions and give her a slightly higher modifier here, and then of course give her a slight stats boost as well. You know, make her go up to 2100, 2150. Beautifully well designed unit. Just a shame that in this day and age, probably gonna be a little bit dated as a result of it. So B, in all honesty, maybe A, depending on the right situation. So B and A is where I'll go for this Eyes Wallenstein. Now this Eyes is an AoE unit actually, huh? Fair enough, fair enough. I keep forgetting which type of unit this is. I always mix it up between AoE and strength. Single target. Alright, let's look at this unit because I always forget what she does. Okay, she does actually quite a decent amount of stuff. Slow, low fire physical attack and uncounter rate with agility and fire resist minus 35%. Already very good there because she's reducing the opponent's agility. Then she also reduces the opponent's or increases the amount of damage the opponents receive from all and single target attacks, which is nice always. And ally status buff plus 3 turns, I should say. She also removes the opponent's strength, magic, and P-res buffs, along with increasing her own strength, agility, and fire attack damage. And on her single target, she removes strength, magical, and physical resistance buffs. In all honesty, this Eyes is actually pretty decent. A little bit dated again in terms of some of her abilities. No additional actions, of course, and stuff like that. But for the most part, she does a lot of what you want in a modern day unit. It's just that, again, like I said, some missing things, some lower modifiers you could argue, especially on her AoE, could have been high fire physical attack or super fire physical attack. No additional actions. That's the only thing I would probably say is bringing her down. I'll probably put her in B. Again, this unit's pretty decent. Lowers the agility, increases her own agility. Pretty decent unit in that regards. Just a bit dated, just a little bit dated. I think she was on the, I think if I'm not mistaken, her release was on the cusp of when we started getting a lot more additional actions going on in terms of all the units releasing out and stuff like that. So just a bit of a shame. I think if I recall correctly, she was part of the manga, the manga event story that happened. So yeah, definitely very old unit. This guy, I mean, he's dated. He is no, I can't really say much. He's D. I'm just saying, this guy's a solid D, but I don't have to even talk about him. Let's talk about this Moonlit Wolf Bet. Now, this guy came out at a very awkward time. time limited unit, but he came out at a time when unfortunately there was another big release, the Thunder Raoul. And that guy was a menace to society. I will talk about him more in detail when we do Thunder units. But that guy was a menace to society. This guy kind of went under the radar, you know. He was one of the first units I remember seeing that had the ability to heal depending on the damage he did. And he also had the counter rate up, which was really good at the time. Again, a lot of people were starting to understand Record Buster at the time, being able to understand what was the situation, why counters were so important and stuff like that. And even in war games, being able to get that counter rate up and being able to counter more often was very imperative to obviously reduce the opponent's nullifications, because Chloe was running around everywhere then the 2 times nullification from physical attacks, right? But again, this guy is dated. He's dated, so I can't really put him any higher than D, to be quite honest. He's a solid D. Definitely dated. He doesn't even have a killer as well, so that doesn't help him either. Usually when it comes to killers, I always give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt, but this guy, he's time limited. You do not want to pick him up from anything he comes across unless you're a collector. And yeah, so I would probably put him as a solid D, to be quite honest. It's a shame, but he's there. Now this bet, on the other hand, Conflagrant Scar bet. He goes extremely well with the Argo Rabbit Bell we saw earlier on, being able to reduce the opponent's status buffs, of course, being able to do so much on his first skill. Fire res down by minus 40%, damage received up, self strength, agility, and fire attack damage plus 60%. 3 additional actions for low fire physical attack damage plus 40% per each target skill. And this is a foes unit. This guy actually could also work extremely well in a war game scenario, to be quite honest, in the sense of he'll be able to help out in terms of being able to go first. He's able to also just deal that fire res down. In that regards, it's pretty decent. But again, obviously, and with his second skill as well, I should specify, because his first skill doesn't do any damage, right? His second skill is where it comes in. But it comes in handy because you also reduce the opponent's status buffs by 2 turns. And then, of course, his third skill is also very decent because he gets a lot of damage from his strength and fire attack damage buffs, which you will have from your assists, from your units, and stuff like that, especially if you're running in, Record Buster and stuff. Again, when you pair him up with Argo Rabbit Bell and you're running in an event like Record Buster and stuff, this guy is probably an easy S. And in all honesty, in terms of versatility, I'd probably still put this guy in S. You know, you could use him in a lot of different situations. And of course, he's able to, ensure you're getting a lot of damage from his main skill as well, especially with the ability to get a lot of the buffs from assists and stuff like that. You're gonna get a lot of damage there. So overall, this guy is not bad at all, and he obviously has a killer as well. Would I put him in S, or should I put him in A? I think we'll put him in A or S. We'll just put him in the middle of the two. I'll just put A and S. I would put him in an A or an S. I think S depending on the situation. A just generally though. I would say that. Alright, let's move on to the most recent fire physical unit. I think it is Tsubaki Colbrand. She came out during the recollections of the Wind event, and she's actually, I would say, not bad. I would say she's pretty decent, being able to reduce the opponent's strength, magic, dexterity, penetration rate, and physical resistance for 1 turn, removing water, thunder, earth, wind, light, dark attack damage buffs. She would fit in quite well into a sort of like stall team, effectively, you know, a team with, like, say, Raoul, for example. Like, Raoul is the perfect example of who's able to, the new water Raoul that we got from the Alice in Wonderland event, right? Or Eyes in Wonderland event, I should say. Works extremely well with him, I think. So in that regards, her first skill is pretty decent. Her second skill is a super fire physical attack damage plus 40%. Good for damage purposes for sure. And her third skill is your generic thing. I think you could I'd probably put her in A, because I feel like you've got better stall options in terms of AoE, just, in terms of war games, right? And in terms of, otherwise, just in terms of single target events, you could probably run her there. You're getting a decent amount of damage from her third skill, and she'll probably do a decent amount of damage from here as well, especially being able to remove status debuffs and giving HP regen. Could help in game modes like Record Buster and stuff. But in terms of like just war games and stuff, I'd probably say an A. I think I'll put her in an A. I'm curious to see what people say about this one down below, because I think she's interesting. She can come in handy, being able to, reduce the opponent's damage quite a lot in her first skill. But I'm curious to see what you guys have to say down below for sure. Now, let's move on to the next one. This is the free Argonaut Bell? Sorry, the Argonaut we got from the 2nd anniversary. Dated, free unit. solid D. Good for his time. Obviously, being the the first time we got a proper original character, in the sense of like, oh, he's going back in time, and this is actually going to be the start of the lore of Danmachi Memoria Freeze. But I can't attribute that to performance. So this guy, solid D. But I mean, if you can pick him up, and I don't know if you can actually pick them up from the event units ticket shop, but if you can, good pickup in terms of collection. But outside of that, not really, to be quite honest. Now let's look at his summonable version, the Dawn Argonaut. This guy and Crozo, the next unit we're going to be looking at, were cracked together. They were so well gelled to work together. Like, their kits meshed well together. They were meant to work together, and you can see it in their skills. Now, I will say this. He is modernized a little bit. They've modernized him quite a little bit, in all honesty, and he's pretty decent. He's pretty decent. I would probably still, though, put him in A, just because of his stats being lower than most modern day units. Most modern day units being 2100, 2200, right? That being said as well, his numbers and modifiers as well could be a little bit better. I mean, this is not bad at all. It's fast super. It's always what I ask for. But, this could have been a high fire physical attack. This could have probably been given something like, super fire physical attack plus 40% per strength and fire attack damage boost or something like that, right? Which is what he gives himself. So something like that would have worked. I would have loved this to be allies as well, because this could have helped Crozo as well, which we'll look at in just right now. We'll look at them together, because I feel like they are a combo pair, in all honesty. You will run them together just because of the storylines and stuff. But yeah, if that was an allies ability, this would have been so good, because his first skill lowers the opponent's strength and magic and agility, which is great. Again, like I say, agility is the main thing you should be looking at when it comes to war games, right? He lowers the opponent's physical and fire res. So if Argonaut gave it to all allies, that would have made this pairing insanely decent, in all honesty. For somebody who's coming back to the game, has had these two guys maxed out but haven't been playing since then. Modern day, if that Argonaut had the ability to give allies strength and fire attack damage, insane. And of course, if he also had the ability to maybe, I don't know, for per fire res and P res down on the opponent, plus 40% on the single target, would have been crazy good. I think generally as well, though, I will still say they're probably a solid pairing. Yeah, you could probably use them, but I wouldn't say they're unbelievably usable. So they're probably gonna be together in B, in all honesty. Solid, but not insane, to be quite honest. Unfortunate, it is what it is. These guys are old, to be honest. It's unfortunate. So let's look at Hyakinthos now. Hyakinthos, this was the anime gacha, one of the anime gachas we got. Very low stats, and again, nothing too crazy here. Probably a D. Probably a D. You're not using him at all. Very, 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 very basic unit. Some good features about him, removing strength and magic buffs, and so on and so forth. Good for his time. Again, another unit that was actually good for his time. Not so much nowadays. Let's move on to, oh my god, this unit, bro. Lena. This was the first time we got Lena, and we were shocked as to what they did to her. What are these modifiers for a unit like Lena, who came out back in 2018, 2019, I think it was 2018, I think it is. This being the kit was horrendous. I remember people saying, what have they done? What is this? And nobody summoned for her. And I think it was kind of sad to see, because I kind of like Lena as a character in the story. No, she's nothing crazy. She's not like one of my favorite female characters in the series, but she's a nice character, and the way they treated her with her kid was disastrous. I could not believe what they were doing to her, to be quite honest. It was insane. Definitely a D, in all honesty. Never gonna be using her. No chance. Now, this Haruhime is actually a unit you'd probably use alongside the Argo Rapid Bell and Bet, to be quite honest, in a Record Buster stage. Being able to give herself strength and fire attack damage, gives herself the 3 additional actions of mid-fire physical attack damage, lowering the opponent's god rate and physical rate as well, increasing the status debuff on the enemy as well for 3 turns. Again, very decent for one of these types of units. Again, like I say, when you're running that Argo Rapid Bell and this Haruhime together, Argo Rapid Bell is already extending the buffs and on your allies, and then this Haruhime is debuffing or extending the debuffs on this enemy. So in tandem, they'll work extremely well together, because then you can run a DPS unit in the 4th slot or something. And of course, Argo Rabbit Bell is able to basically heal himself up. And then her third skill obviously has 30% per each target's guard rate and P-res reduction skill and high penetration rate, which is great. It's honestly really, really good. This unit is great. Again, has killer. It's just a shame that all three Bet, Haruhime, and Argo Rabbit Bell, all three of them have different killers. Otherwise, they would have worked together so smoothly in like a familiar rush and stuff. Definitely very nice. Now we have this Elise Lovell. Now this was the first Elise, summonable Elise we got. Pretty decent stats, but again, I feel like she's now at that point where we do need a little bit of a buff for these units. And the funny thing is, this Elise came out just as they started to do additional actions, because the free-to-play Ryu we got actually had additional actions, but they never gave it to this Elise or any other unit that was in and around that era. For some reason, they didn't give it to this Elise actually only, because I think the Gareth that came out with them had it. The single target Riveria had it as well in the summonable banners. So, and Artie I think also has, or does Artie have it actually? One second. Taking a little bit of a detour here, just a little bit of a detour. Artie doesn't have a additional action, so a little bit weird that they gave it to some units but not all in back then. But I need to filter by fire physical. But again, I think with the upcoming buffs that these guys are getting, they'll definitely be much better. Right now I would probably say this is a B though. Elise's kit is a B, and I would say the same thing with Kaguya. Kaguya is also definitely a B. Solid unit, has the additional actions actually, but low modifiers, again low numbers, and the fact that this is only one turn kind of hurts her a little bit, to be quite honest. So if they can buff up the turn count, buff up the stats a little bit, buff up the modifiers a little bit, these units will be insane once again. I think they'll probably easily be at least A once they get their buffs in January, which we should be getting, information about in December end or something, once they start talking about the event rerun and stuff. But very much looking forward to Elise and Kaguya's reruns, to be honest. Very much so excited for them, and their buffs as well, for sure. Now this Zard was actually the second time he came around. This is the second Zard we got actually, because there are two Zards. There's one that's light and then there's this one that's fire, and this guy's actually pretty decent. He does a lot of interesting things, especially right. He's giving allies 40% strength and 50% fire attack damage, kind of what I was insinuating with that Argonaut, right, the Dawn Argonaut, is that he gives himself the same boost basically. Why not give it to allies, right? And so that would have been something really nice. He also gives a decent damage received boost on enemies, which is all targets plus 35% for 2 turns. So that's very cool. Overall, this guy is pretty decent, and he also has a chance to taunt. So he's actually pretty usable on an ailment team, for example, right? Obviously, he doesn't have anything that reduces the resistance for that, but overall, this guy's pretty decent. Would I use him though? Again, probably not. I think he's a little bit dated, to be honest, just a little bit. Probably on the higher end of B though, because he still does his job. He still does quite a bit here. He's able to give the allies the strength and fire attack damage. He's giving himself 3 additional actions, which are mid-fire physical attacks. No additional actions though on top of that, which is a shame. But the additional damage received plus 35% helps him out a lot. High B. Now let's look at Lid. Now this guy, I still think he's pretty decent. I'd still say this Lid can easily be an A unit, to be quite honest. He gives himself agility, which makes him go fast in the second rotation. He lowers the opponent's P-res. He's got the additional actions, admittingly low modifiers. Again, that's my main issue with this guy, but I still believe he can still be good. He does a lot of damage, in all honesty. Still to this day, I see people using him. Obviously, it's hard to say he's going to be any higher. He's going to be on the higher end of A. I'd probably say low A at most, to be quite honest. Maybe high B. I think it depends on the usability and what you have, to be quite honest, more so than anything else. I would probably say this guy maybe high B. Maybe I'm being a bit too generous with the A. Let me know where we would put Lid, to be quite honest, because I would probably put him in high B at most, but I know you guys might have some different takes on in comparison, because I remember still using him alongside Belle and Aisha from the 4th anniversary, to be honest. So yeah, let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about this Lid. I'm very curious to see. Now, Kotori Itsuka. This is one unit I actually never really fully understood how to use, to be quite honest. I don't have her actually, funnily enough, as well. Obviously the Data Life collaboration unit, but she was very interesting, obviously, being able to give herself the 30% HP regen and strength and heal and fire attack damage plus 60%, right? Then she had obviously the allies avoid KO skill plus giving herself 30% HP heal. And then her fourth skill was super fire physical attack damage plus 50% per each self STR buff and damage received plus 20% 4 turns, which was pretty decent. Now, in this day and age, this is a little bit bad, in all honesty, purely because a lot of players have this third skill for free, effectively. I mean, if you look at Argo Rapid Belt, for example, I mean, I don't wanna point fingers and all, but like, I mean, come on, bro. Super fire physical attack damage plus 70% per each self STR buff skill. Like, come on. I mean, the Kotori is decent, but again, she is just dated. She's way before her. She was a unit ahead of her time, but doesn't have the ability to rock with it to this day, in all honesty, because of course, if you look at that MP cost, it's not worth it. You're not running this sort of a unit in this day and age, to be honest, wherein Bell is running the same skill with 70% 70 MP, sorry, not 70% MP, with 70 MP versus 196 MP. A C, I would probably say a C. This is one of the units that I would say is still kinda usable, but not fully usable, to be quite honest. Very, very low usage. Min probably needs a buff. Lily, this unit came out last year with the Another Eden collaboration. Decent stats, decent abilities, of course, giving herself strength and fire attack damage plus 80%, P-res down minus 40%, opponent's god rate and counter rate down, and along with damage received, all attack type, all targets plus 35%. This is a unit and a half, to be honest. I'd say this is an easy A. She can easily slot into a lot of teams if you don't have any other option, very, very easily, and that's the point of these units. When you're going for units in A rank, I know it's a bit weird to say like, oh, they're not the topmost units, right? But they're very much still decent units. You can easily use them as replacement units if you don't have any other units, right? So for me, I think I would probably put her in A at the very least, in all honesty. Decent unit, just a little bit dated, to be quite honest, just a little bit dated. And the main thing is, again, it's small things. It's very small things that avoid her from going higher up in this rank. You know, the low fire physical attack instead of medium, you know, or mid, I should say. And just generally a little bit, this could have been fast super. There was no reason not to go fast super. Why not? May as well go all out, right? So small things, just very small things, I would say. And now let's go over to the last couple of on. We have Aldo over here. He was, again, another Eden collaboration, I'm pretty sure, or something along those lines. I don't remember when Aldo came out, to be quite honest, but he was a free unit if I recall correctly, and you guys can see it by the skills. He's got some decent skills, ability to reduce the opponent's strength and magic by 40%, but modifiers are fast low. This one is self strength and fire attack damage plus 50% for 2 turns, and low fire physical attack on the additional actions. Again, you're not going to be using this guy outside of anything. Probably a solid C though, nonetheless, because he still does a decent amount of stuff, just not a whole lot. Probably C. Probably a very, very low C, but C nonetheless. Now we have the Executioner and her Way of Life unit, Ashina, and the last unit from the Fire Physical set. Oh boy, this has been a long video, but that's why I'm splitting up these videos, man. Like I've said, it's not easy to record these videos, right? So I will appreciate all the support you guys give. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and all that jazz. 2141 attack. Pretty decent unit in terms of what she does, obviously being able to remove any sort of damage so super fast physical attack with Ultron counter rate, and removes damage reduction, so any damage reduction on enemies that they have, so that, you know, they take less damage, is removed from specifically the AoE attack ones. Fire is down by 40%, gives herself strength and fire attack damage plus 70%. I'd say she's one of the better AoE fire physical units in this day and age. Probably an easy A, able to give herself slow fire physical and magic rest 60%, remove status debuffs, and plus 3 additional actions as well, gives herself 30% HP heal. Decent unit, I would say. Overall, very solid, gives herself a lot of stuff here, right? Especially being able to effectively sort of tank, and that's another good reason why you could probably use her on a stall team, for example, or something like that, because she's able to give herself that 60% physical and magic res and remove any status debuffs on herself, so that she's able to go rocking into the next phase completely fresh and ready to go, right? And her skills are pretty decent overall. I mean, I don't have to really add too much about those other skills. The single target and then the special arts, you can see what it does. Pretty solid unit, solid A. I wouldn't probably put her in S though, because I feel like S is limited to just units that are commonly used. They are used every single place, everywhere, have to be used kind of units. And I would probably say she's very decent, but I wouldn't say people are gonna be using her no matter what, right? So there you have it. Thank you guys so much for watching this tier list. Nonetheless though, that was the final unit. Holy crap, like I said, this has been a long video, a 40-minute tier list video for fire physical units only. If this has gone up on time tomorrow, when I say tomorrow, it's a Friday, and not Saturday, there should be the fire magical one the day after that. So be on the lookout for it. Of course, if you guys enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how do you guys improve the type of way we're doing this sort of tier list system. Hopefully you guys are liking the whole AS rank system as being meta, A being usable, very much so. Can be replacements for the S ranks in certain situations. B and C are somewhat usable, getting dated, and then D is just unusable, right? I hope you guys like that sort of system. It's very easy to understand, I feel, and a lot of players can kind of get used to it. But there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, appreciate all of y'all for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.